overall, the track was pretty much what we expected at Rosehill. Probably a bit better than the 6 side of things, but they did get away from the inside, no doubt, from the start of the day. So anything that hung towards that inside, especially early in the day, probably a little bit forgiving. Hard to come from back and wide. And circle, not really. It was pretty fair, I thought. So a slow start, first race of the day, fast tempo. They sort of go out pretty quick to the 800, lifted it, and then really slow home, which is what it
Starter about to release the big field.
What it looks like pretty visually.
Stand by. Racing and Prince Aurelius and Danish Prince, the 2 reliable ones out of the gates, are going to take up the early lead. Pharaoh's Rain Away well goes to 3rd. Smart Legend ridden up, then Street Candy. Queenmaker cast very wide. Midfield the fences, Leander on the inside of Star Impact and Cuban.
Yeah, so not a lot happened, I didn't think, in the run. Queenmaker was a good run, sat wide, no cover up outside the lead, as it was a sort of fairly solid tempo. Danish Prince had to work a bit to get up outside and kicks away, so they're probably the 2 better runs of the on-speed horses. The winner's back in the middle here. Mountain Guest gets held up. Glad You Think So. Bit of a forgive run, never in the right spot, sort of loses momentum, then never looks comfortable. Decadent Tail also sort of ends up back towards that inside section.
There's a real line of horses. Irish Kisses there with Decadent Tail, and closest to the fence is the favourite Glad You Think So. And the last 3 now, Mountain Guest, Dr.
2 up front sort of take each other on. Pharaoh's Rain maybe a little bit disappointing, had a nice run and never did a lot, but overall the time he is pretty steady considering how quick they've gone, and this horse is just absolutely perfectly ridden, back in the pack, gets the gap when it needs it, never really gets held up for momentum. We'll have a look at the absolute bunched ordinary margins. Like, this is the definition of a horse that was flattered by basically everything it possibly could be. So it's like a really solid example of a horse that was, next time round, it's not going to get this many favours, you would think, so it's going to struggle. Yeah, Decadent Tail back towards the inside. Glad You Think So. Never in the right spot. Mountain Guest in the black and yellow quarters sort of tries to get through and never gets a chance to wind up. Be careful of overplaying these sorts of runs next time out, simply because it had the pace assistance from the fast tempo up front and kind of got to the right part, just never got a crack at them. So it could be overplayed. I'd be very wary of this form in general. Danish Prince was probably the run of the race, up out on, and Queenmaker got to the right part, but it did sit wide, no cover the whole way. So I'd say that they were the 2 better runs. Cuban Grand Chico sat wide with cover. These horses had the sort of softer sits and got to the right part. I would be neutral to negative about these couple, and it's probably the only positive run with Queenmaker. The rest either forgive-ish or negative. It's a pretty poor race and not a very exciting start to the day. Yeah, I don't know what. DiMaggio I thought was ready to win 2 starts ago, and then it was a bit disappointing last time. And yeah, certainly a horse. I think it's a 1400 metre on pace horse. I don't know if it runs this trip, so it's a tricky one to line up. It sort of needs to be well placed, I think, DiMaggio. I think that's enough about race 1. Race 2, the Highway. Solid tempo, but not super quick. The first race was certainly run at a faster speed, and the overall quality of this one's a little bit better. Actually, I did, what did I do with that thing? I made up a very flash thing. Did I put it? Surely I've put it up this week. Where is it? Look at this. So if we take off that and put that up, what does that do? There we go. High-tech graphics here. Yeah, so first race, fast tempo, poor quality, looking for negative targets. Second race, even tempo, a better quality to the race. So it's more of a fast speed throughout. They did back off a little bit late, so just above average speed, but nothing too crazy, that's for sure. So Belvedere Boy, last up we were with him and yeah, just sort of missed the kick. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Got stuck back towards the inside and forced to make a run there. Jump better today. Nash sort of elected to take a set. Ends up in a pretty good spot, even though he's sort of beyond midfield. He was always travelling comfortably in clear air and got his chance to wind up. A couple of runs that looked decent here. Palazzo Prince only having his third start in a race. Ridden forward, so he's been ridden pretty conservatively. His two starts, ridden up outside, solid tempo. I thought his effort was good. He's in the Parramatta sort of colours, blue and yellow, blue and gold colours, heading forward. Ends up sort of chasing a solid speed. Rapidash is in there behind him. He runs his new honest race. Vino Lash was a weird one here. It was 11 to 1400, had no form past 1,000 prior to this prep, and you would assume they were trying to get it to a country championships heat or something like that. And super. The review of Celestial Legend won't be like the live one. I'm too tired, but yeah, Vino Lash was a bit of a failure here. Leader sets us, as I said, sort of an even, solid tempo. Has to chase Palazzo Prince. Perfect runs, Belvedere Boy and Sharp Shock, who run 1-2.
Further back to Gypsy's Romance as they come up towards the turn. Belvedere Boys, it's outside. Just peeling it a little bit deeper now. Nash putting the favourite.
Atmospheric Rock gets a long way back. Sort of had to give him a big start. I think it tops out at 1,400 metres too. I think it's a better 1,200 metre horse unless it's really well placed as a perfect draw. I think it needs everything to go its way to win over 1,400. Whereas, yeah, Belvedere Boys had every chance, but super strong win and just too good. Rapidash every chance, I thought. Maybe ridden a little bit closer than normal, but probably ran better than I thought it would too. Good job, Rapidash in for third, and Palazzo Prince battled on well. Atmospheric always super, super honest, but I think it's a 1,200 metre horse. Well, a better 1,200 than 1,400 metre horse, that's for sure. Forgiving-ish sort of run from... what horse was that? Set up on speed. Probably look at the right race. It'll help you. Number 15. Miss Stalwart. It was sort of set a task to it. It was a forgiving sort of run if it goes back to a race that looks more suitable. Who's this? Stormy Witness did a few things. Just looking sort of at the sectional breakdowns. Ran the second fastest 800 to the 400 of the day. Probably worth having another look at. I missed that the first time round. The Stormy Witness is in the purple here. Back here. Where was it at the 800? Failed off. It has done something there, Stormy Witness, even though it doesn't look like it in a pretty fast run race, so it could be one that could improve next time out. Considering it's been beaten 6 or 7 lengths, it can go up in trip, so it's one to keep an eye on. I'll be very surprised if this form doesn't stand up in sort of country championships and certainly highway form going forward. So it'll be a strong race. It's just a matter of catching the right horses in the right races. I think he can go to a mile, Belvedere Boy. I think Sharp Shock, this is 1,400's his go. I think Rapidash maybe back to 1,200, but he's quite one-paced here. It'd be interesting to see where he goes, and Palazzo ridden a little bit quieter over 1,400. Should be no problem. He might even run a touch further. Back in trip for the rest. Race 3. Weird prep for Vino. Yeah, I think they've just tried to sort of rush it to a country championships. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Obviously, it's had a few issues. I think it was off for a long time before the first up run. So I'd say it's gone a bit pear-shaped for Vino Lass. I wouldn't be surprised if they put her away and try to freshen her up and start again or something like that. As long as she hasn't pulled up with an issue. This race is weird. It looked like a fast run race. Watching it live, race 3, 1,100 metre benchmark 78, and sort of Shadows of Love is sort of dragged out of the race. So it's probably more, you call it an even tempo. They, if anything, go a touch slow to the 800, but they quicken up from the 8 to the 6 and then sort of maintain that even tempo to the line. The winner closes from back in the pack with some of the better closing sections of the day, fastest last 600 of the day. So some real solid merit in this horse's run. I think it's ideal conditions for it. I think Loves the Sting Out down the middle of the track's ideal for it, but it's, watching the run, Eaton Bandy's Boy, I thought watching it live were probably a little bit flattered, but in hindsight, their efforts are a little bit better than what it suggested. It's a bit of an improving horse, these Shadows of Love. He might pick up a better race. So you can say like a number one, a horse that can be ridden closer to the speed going forward, which is a great sign. Jumps, as well as anything. And there's some fastish horses in this race. And It and Bandy's Boy are both sort of grabbed hold of and taken back. So Ballroom Bella's the horse that misses the kick a little bit and is, I think, the forgive run in the race. A horse that certainly would rather be up on speed. They're still getting dragged back, Shadows of Love, here in the section where they're not going quick. So giving up ground that, I don't like to see that as a rule, but that adds merit to the win, I think. Bandy's Boy in the same sort of position. Extravagant Stars, the one who's had the absolute perfect run. No excuses for Epic Proportions. I don't think Ballroom Bella, as a rule, is a horse that will like to lead up a 3-wide line. I think it's more of a horse that needs a soft, cold smother and then come with a run. So I think this is a really good clean-out run for it. So the 3 weeks between runs, maybe. The run won't hurt it too bad. It's not as if they've gone 100 mile an hour, but I think it's a better horse in a race sort of where it can control or sit outside the lead and in a controlled speed rather than sort of chasing from back in the pack like it is here. Shadows of Love just makes a long, sustained run. As I said, sort of fastest last 600 of the day, adjusted for distance in class and all that sort of thing. Maybe not on sectional. So when I say that, that's just how ratings to win breaks things down, how I look at things. And Bandy's Boy really good back towards the inside. As I said, Ballroom Bella good. So I think first, third, and fourth are the ones to follow out of this race. Absolutely no knock on any of them. They did get to the right part of the track. She's an A-list is the only one that really stays back on the inside there. Ipsy Doodle's just sort of getting a bit keen in its races. Whether that first up run really flattened it, I wouldn't be surprised to see James give this horse 3 or 4 weeks between runs and a trial just to try and get it back on track. But yeah, that Bandy's Boy, Shadows of Love, similar conditions, sort of a 5-6 sting out of the track's ideal for both those horses. And Ballroom Bella even back on a drier surface where it can get a bit of control. I think all 3 of those horses can be followed. The format of the race, I think, as a form race, will be okay. I'm not convinced this horse, Extravagant Star's got a lot more to offer. And 2 on the inside probably need to be placed well to go well. Yeah, you would say that's where they're aiming up at. I don't know what's his... let me just have a quick look at him. So he's not been tested at 1400 before. 1300 he was given a tough run up on speed in a fast run race. Yeah, there's nothing to say that he won't run 1400 yet. Yeah, 1200 back to 11 up to 14. That's probably absolutely ideal. I wouldn't be concerned with that jump. It's a bit of a weird one because I'm not big on horses jumping sort of 300 metres, but to win first up 1200 off a fast tempo, 4 weeks between runs back to 11 and then up to 14, I think it could potentially be absolutely ideal for Bandy's Boy. Silver Slipper. So this was interesting. A bit of a conflicting parade feedback from people that looked at these horses pre-race, and quite a few sort of said that Straight Charge was potentially parading a little bit more. The other horse, Espionage, paraded potentially a little bit more forward than Straight Charge here, which I thought was interesting, considering Straight Charge has sort of had a half a failed prep and back to the trial since, was entitled to be fitter. Personally, I thought that Espionage had a little bit more cleaning up to do. I thought it raced a little bit fresher here, and I don't think there's much between them, and I do think that they're serious contenders when we're talking about the race against Storm Boy. Straight Charge is probably going to be ridden a little bit closer when it comes to a slipper, but we see how quick Espionage is naturally and bouncing faster, and certainly things unfolded well for them when Embassy, was it called Embassy? Embassy missed the kick. As soon as it missed the start, that basically gave control to Nash and Timmy, and it was nearly game over from that position. I think Nash did the right thing, handing up to Straight Charge. Tim does the right thing, not panicking, allowing the horse to stride forward. The tempo is very controlled. They run home in solid time and run fastish time overall. All things considered, they've sort of gone a length quicker than standard for this grade off a softish tempo, and I don't think either of them were knocked around. You can see they're both travelling really well. I think Celerity's gone well back in the pack. I think it'll make a horse next time in. I'd love to see them tip it out now and let it sort of develop physically and mentally. You can see it's quite green, wants to overdo things in the run, makes a nice sprint down the outside. But yeah, the winner, straight as a gun barrel, real professional. You can see physically, well and truly developed enough to be competitive in a race like the Slipper. The second horse also, pretty solid. I don't think the second horse would have gone past him in another 400 metres personally. That late closing, you can see through the line. It's not as if Straight Charge, I hate that they do this now, that they cut away from the horses through the line and show the connections and things. Like, it's great for racing, but I want to see these horses go through and past the line. Yeah, for me, the only two horses that are going to be competitive in a Slipper are the first two. Erno's Cube, I think, maybe he can run a race, but that's probably as good as he goes. Embassy did a good job after missing the start and sort of said Celerity. Just a little bit immature, those slow starts, giving him starts, it's costing, and you can see quite tough Cactus on the line. This is the sort of horse I could see over, 1,000, 1,100 at Randwick, resuming next time in and putting a big performance together. I think it's got a really nice turn of foot, real sort of short course horse in the making next time in. Yeah, no knock on 1-2, no knock on Erno's Cube. I think that's just quite as good as it goes, and same for Embassy. But yeah, I think the first two colts across the line here are quality colts off an absolute perfect pipe opener for a Golden Slipper tilt in 4 weeks or whatever it is. I think this is the best lead into this 2 weeks. Storm Boy probably doesn't need it. He's going to go through, run and then 3 weeks in because he's had the extended prep. So I think Gay's got it right, chosen the right horses to run the right races and the right lead-ups.
Time-honoured Parramatta Cup. Stand by for a break, although Diamond just lunged.
Again, this one looked like they ran it a bit quicker than what they did. They do run at a sort of fast tempo, back it off a little bit to the 8 to the 6, but the sort of damage is done in that first half. The one's up on speed. Time coming home is not, super quick, but it's like above average race. More Felons runs into a bit of trouble, has to go back towards the inside, so no knock on it. Horrible to see. Poor old Stroke of Luck euthanized after the race. Yeah, I think they'll go to the Todman, both of them. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Yeah, not much happens in the run here, to be fair. I'll sort of fast forward. Zenzella up outside the leader had its chance. The only horse that wasn't given its chance, well, it's not, I can say wasn't given its chance. The only other horse that really works hard throughout is Canberra Legend. The Mighty Entente does as well, but he's sort of first up off a really long break. Canberra Legend's here, never gets cover, arguably strongest late. Huge effort. Jack Stroke of Luck, more Felons. Love Tap sees them all. They've got 1,000 metres to run. Say United in front by just on a length to Zenzella. Then Camel Mania. Canberra Legend, he's going to sleep well tonight. Diamond looks like it's going to bolt in coming to the 400 and then spits the dummy. I was a little bit concerned about him jumping to 1,900 quickly, and yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, but playing late. The winner's back on the inside here, not really travelling at any stage, so you think it's got huge upside. The Mighty Man Zeus towed up like he might do something and wasn't beaten far, but it's hard to say that he's back on track, that's for sure. Here's more Felons, sort of had to dodge around. Poor old Stroke of Luck. Back towards the inside, Canberra Legend sticks on really well. Zenzella, as I said, sort of every chance. I think this form will certainly stand up and feed these staying races in the next few weeks onto sort of races like the Sydney Cup potentially. You would think that's where more Felons will end up. it's hard to sort of knock, apart from Canberra Legend, this horse's effort. Lord Ardmore and Bold Mac had a bit of fitness edge over these horses, so I doubt that he'll turn the table sort of quite fit, quite fit, quite fit, quite fit, unlucky, can improve and can improve. So, yeah, and the poor old man Zeus, is he back on track? He's only been beaten 2, but certainly had his chance in the run. You know, potentially he's not gone, that's for sure. He's not gone. And Diamond, you've got to be fairly forgiving. You know, maybe 3 weeks between runs, same sort of distance, can be hard to beat. But, yeah, the horse is on the up in this race. More Felons first up. This horse was only second up. What's it called? Alcease or some Almania. Canberra Legend was off a freshen. Where do they go? They all sort of seem to run into each other, but yeah, this form will definitely be okay to feed into some of these staying races. Yeah, definitely a cruel watch, and happy to provide that bit of pain for you, whilst others had some pleasure. Yarraman Park Handicap. The mighty Wellwall. He was good to us in a small way. Quite a few people found this off its jump out. It was just very strange that once again the betting was really weak here. Fairly well found on Betfair. So it's an interesting one. I don't know how everyone goes with these Waller horses resuming. I know the market's not be all end all, but I know the market's not be all end all, but these Waller horses, when you're sort of looking for at least a positive lead to say the horse is going as well as you think, if you see it trials well with a bit of intent or looks well set up, you know, when you see More Felons starting $37 Betfair 21 SP, 18.50 Wellwall from a sort of 12 to 1 SP. It's not easy. Yeah, well, the difference with Robusto is it was hard fit and well set up, and it was unlucky in the run. I'm talking about horses that you're sort of trying to line them up. It seems that even Zugotcha starts 5.28. You know, like I actually thought it could start favourite if the stable, if it was back to its old form, I thought it would start favourite or very close to it. And there was no real lead. There was sort of bits and pieces for money for it, but there had to be. You know, just had to get that perfect run, and such a decent setup. Trials were pretty good. 2 trials this time in, back to 1,300 first up instead of 11, but there was still not any significant money for it. So to me, they're still a stable that it's hard to get a lead from the market. So, you know, when they're a big price, you kind of just got to live by the sword, die by the sword, back your own judgment when it comes to this stable in particular. I'd say shorter odds, it's obviously harder to chime into them, but, you know, when you're getting what you think is a decent chunk of overs, you've got to sort of forget the market, I think, when it comes to this stable in particular. Yeah, well, the race in general, hang on, the race in general, it was not great, but it was okay. The staying race was probably lesser so. Yeah, you've got to always back yourself, but it's there are stables that do give you great information when their horses are very weak in betting first up and things like that. It's you'd be silly not to take some sort of notice. I'm not saying don't bet or whatever, but there's some that give you rubber stamps, and there's some that you're sort of betting blind a lot of the time because whether they don't know or just means nothing. Some stables certainly far more switched on with how their horses are going and have an influence over the market compared to others. Quite keen in the run. This is over Robusto, ends up in an awkward position, has to make a bit of a long run, but Wellwall was, from what we can tell, first up off one jump out, whereas Robusto was hard fit, did have to cover more ground. Thalassophale in the file in the middle goes really well. Thought Faulkner Park went all right first up. I thought Little Mix went okay for a staying sort of horse first up. Marcus a little bit one-paced, which I fell into it a little bit more than I should have for sure. I thought sort of the way the race was run, getting to that middle of the park with that mile run under the belt, might just keep going. Palmetto went really well. The young jockey did nothing wrong on it. Cut as bit as wide as she probably could and sort of got forced back to the inside a bit by Marquis and Vernelli. Going forward, quite hard to line these up. Who's going to improve significantly, but a lot of them are going to go to different races. So whilst Robusto certainly had excuses, he's just at his absolute peak, can't go any better. This is the first time we've seen Wellwall hit the line and win a race out here, and it was only first up. I said sort of did a little bit wrong, so it can improve. Palmetto's returned as in the form that it's shown previously. It's gone well. Marcus, I think, went okay. Probably just needs to go back up to a mile or even further potentially. Glassophile's a difficult horse to catch, but certainly returned well, and so is Faulkner Park. Kinlock sort of missed the start, got into an awkward spot and ran okay. And is that Premise on the inside of Little Mix? Yeah, they both went okay for stayers resuming, I thought. Again, there's not too many horses here you want to jump out of the ground to back next up, but they're on track for other races. It's just all about setup and how there's not many horses you just want to latch hold of here and back wherever they go next time out. But they've done enough here to have a good look at them pretty much wherever they go. All of the first 7 or 8 across the line here have got potential to win a race, whether it's in a couple of starts or next time out if they're well placed. But there's nothing there that sort of jumps out at you to be negative towards or positive, I didn't think. Yeah, Thalassophile, 100%. But it fits into that. It needs that right race. Needs a draw, needs a few things. Millie Fox, bit of an unevent here. Absolutely slow tempo. Who banned you? Yeah, slow tempo here. I have to jump on with you next stream. Holy cow! I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Yeah, very, very slow tempo controlled here from the 8. Slow down from the 8 to the 6. Zip home. The times home for the day are not quick. So this was the fastest run last 600 of the day. But they had everything go their way. These horses up on speed. No excuses. Madame Pommery got a few things going on between its ears, obviously. Struggled to load it.
Open betting race. They're off. Renosa with the white cap left quite well. Then came Red Card out, and now Frilled is starting to muster.
Probably want to put the right race on. That'll make life easier to review the race.
Moves to the Fox Stakes. Stand by. There's that blindfold cast out the back, and they're off there in the Millie Fox, and the favourite Lady Laguna jumped brilliantly, and so did Madame Pommery in second spot.
So I think he was a bit surprised, told Lady Laguna when How Good Are You didn't ping and give it a bunny, which probably didn't help. I think it's a much better horse with something to chase. Worked out absolutely perfectly for Zugotcha. Madame Pommery lobs in a perfect spot. Diamond Dealer did a few things wrong and sort of dragged back Vienna Princess, who probably wanted that position to be dangerous. I thought Lekfart went really well, considering it was a really controlled tempo. It's flying, just needs to be well placed. I think Argentia was retired. Don't quote me on that, but I thought that was what I heard after the race. So we probably won't see her again. I'll have another look at Renaissance Woman. It's probably the one horse I haven't looked at, but I didn't expect her to be suited to a sit sprint here, so whatever she did, I'd be quite forgiving of, unless she's extremely plain. I think she can improve in a very different race, but I think she's a bit like Thalassophile, needs to be well placed. Mare's Grade's probably her thing. So yeah, like Zugotcha's back on track. Certainly, absolutely no excuses, but this winner is absolutely flying, hard fit. Maybe marginally better suited in the run. Zugotcha with the trail and getting to the slightly better ground, but huge fitness edge. This horse has got more upside physically going forward, and Lady Laguna's just run as well as it can. It's just the better horse has won. Madame Pommery earmuffs, all sorts of things going on there. She's got a big engine. It's just a matter of whether she can, unlock that on the day most of the time, and she's very dangerous. Vienna Princess, a really good return. Lekbart probably needs it a little bit easier, but has, a Group 3 mares race, something like that, Group 2 mares race. She's still going to be dangerous around this distance range up to a mile. I know how good he is, just not return well, and I'd be forgiving of this run of Renaissance Woman, just not suited at all to a sit sprint around Rosehill. It's a good horse. I don't know where place for that. Yeah, it wasn't well placed in this race, and it certainly wasn't well placed with the tempo. Ramwick, 1400 a mile mares race for Lekbart, big field, big tempo. Yeah, it can be dangerous in a sort of a high level race. I think it just needs the right setup. You'd think so. Guy Walters, the most likely target. Hobartville Stakes, roller coaster of emotions. I went from very sad to very happy to very sad to very happy. Slowish sort of run race. Again, controlled tempo. They controlled it even further to the 600, get home pretty sharp, and the winners just built through the line. 16th fastest last 8, and then it did get held up, but 7th fastest last 6, 8th fastest last 4, 4th fastest last 2. So I'd love to see that building through the line. Surprisingly, nothing else in the race really did. Tom Kitten did to a certain degree, but he was out in sort of open room to move and never looked to be able to build himself up like Celestial Legend did. Whether that was the ground, wasn't super wet. Like, we're sort of coming out of 5.1, 4.7, so wasn't as if it was heavy ground. Whether he needs 2,000 meters plus to get to his top, and crikey, it'd be hard to see it turning the tables on Celestial Legend in a mile next time round. So we'll watch it anyway. It's a little bit weird at the start. It looks like these horses are all going to be sort of stuck in awkward positions. You got Celestial Legends like running 4th, 5th last. A couple of gays weren't that sharp out, and certainly a good effort by McAvoy to get on his bike, because there's no real position here. You've got Tim sort of floating forward. You've got Vampire up in front. Even Duke Cass is like holding a position up there near the speed. Fukabana's a horse I want to look at from a country championship perspective if they're going to go that way. But yeah, great effort from McAvoy to somehow end up in the 1-1 position. NCAP, is that not NCAP? That's the stablemate. Flying Trapeze. I think it was NCAP. They would have probably booted up and tried to hold it out. Tom Kitten a little bit keen in an awkward position back towards the inside, but nothing too crazy. CL Wolf is the horse that scares me. I just thought he didn't look like he was going that well. Gets caught wide here. Does have cover, but doesn't get beat too far. And even Cafe Millennium looming up. But was a little bit of a dumpy race through the middle here. You can see they sort of all clump up, and that sort of does tend to help the horses cheat a little bit and sneak into the race without doing any work and not get beaten far. So certainly all merit for mine with the winner. He's even held up in here. He doesn't get on the back of NCAP that quick, and then he's lucky that sort of Raff Attack drops off here and he's able to get to the outside. And Tom Kitten wasn't able to sprint sharp enough to keep him in that pocket. So a few things did go his way to get that run, but yeah, once he sort of levels out the grey horse, it's pretty hard to argue that this horse is not clearly superior to these horses in this distance range. It'd take a good set of binoculars to say that Tom Kitten would catch him in another 200 metres. Not sure if he'd catch him in another 800 metres. So it's very interesting to see where this horse goes this prep. It was always going to be a little bit of D-Day for him. He did enough first up in the wrong part of the track in a slow run race. Last prep, he never really had anything go his way, and this is the first time he's had a few things go his way, and he's utterly dominant and crushes them. So, yeah, maybe he is the real deal on the way up and the one to beat. Certainly in the Randwick Guineas, and then potentially even further. It's hard to see him stopping. He's off the bit and he's able to pick up and build through the line. Everything you want to see. Looking at Fukabana back towards the inside here in the aquary greeny colours with the white stripes, just from a country championship perspective, if they drop him back to that, because they did put him in the country championship last Sunday and scratched him, so he is eligible for the wild card if they want to go that way. I thought Gambari stuck on okay, but as I said, all these horses just sticking on because that slow tempo. Ducasse a little bit the same. Pretty messy, ugly race. Levon Pier in the right spot all the way, but even through the line, he's not bad back towards the inside there. You'd think he'd have to be extraordinarily hard to beat in a midway, like you're sort of lining up this horse against Belvedere Boy in the highway earlier on. You would have to say this race, even though it's ugly, has to be superior, and he should be at his peak now. Yeah, no more dance. I'm not reviewing the dance. It was good. It was good to get a result. Those early prices, I probably got a bit wrapped up in the day, to be fair, and forgot to handle it a little bit more professionally. But it's good horse, good result. I've always had a bit of an emotional attachment to this horse, and it's good to see him back on track. Big Tom's the one that the jury's probably out on a little bit, and he has to prove himself again now off the back of that. NCAP, I think that's as good as he can go. Levon Pier the same. This bloke can improve out to 2,000 metres, and this one, as I said, eligible for a country championships qualifier. So it's got to be dangerous if it goes back there. I thought more would be said about the ride on the stablemate to the winner here. Renosu. I thought it was a little bit blatant that they were super aggressive early. Well back to stablemate. I thought more questions would be asked, let's put it that way. But regardless, not much of a race. They go out fairly controlled, speed up a little bit, don't come home overly quick. It's not a poor race. It's just a bit of an even race, not going in here looking to be super negative or positive about anything. It's just a bit more how it unfolds. It looked a diabolical race to me prior, where there weren't too many things lined up for anything. It was sort of a race where you could make a case for everything and build a case against most. I thought the run of the race was Rainbeal. Again, a horse that could probably hold a spot if it drew a gate, drew outside, and just completely negatively ridden, dragged out of the race. So in a even tempo, 1,100 metre race around here, it's not ideal to be getting dragged out the back. Does get inside runs and comes through towards the inside, which compensates a little bit for being dragged out. But as you said, like, you've given up. If it drew a gate, I think it could have been sort of 5-6 lengths closer, spending the same amount of petrol.
And Frill continues the charge on the outside to Renosu. Red card is in a stalking roll third. Clear then from Omni Man.
Yeah, I think it was blatant, and to not be asked, what's going on with the clear intent, like that's intent. That's not anything but intent. He's certainly very scared to let this Frill run, which I think is probably to its detriment. As you can see, it sort of gets fired up anyway, whereas I think it doesn't have a sprint. It's just a fast, sustained burst horse. So I think fighting this horse is against it. Probably needs a Blake Shin, Tim Nash to ride the horse to its best, I think. Hippo, Josh, one of these sort of riders that's used to riding for Gay or Newnham, or someone who, likes to run fast, even sections. I think that's far better suited to Frill. Always tends to fight on. Red card I was concerned about on a softish ground. Obviously, it wasn't that wet, and with this perfect run, just a bit of a McDonald masterclass. Not much between most of these. As we said, like, there was a lot of horses here that weren't suited to 1,100, wet track, dry track. There were things against most of them, getting back in the ruck. These two horses sort of fighting each other. Libertad hasn't finished the course. The race in general is a bit of a nothing race, but I think you run this race 10 times and mix the barrier draws up, you probably get quite a few different results. Quick tempo poking through there. Derry Grove kind of got in an awkward spot where it had to make a long, wide run, which was not ideal off a soft tempo. Rainbeal made a long run, but sort of cut underneath them. Renosu was the bunny back towards the inside, forgiving a bit. It was probably one of the better runs in the race, all things, but did set a relatively even tempo. Yeah, blanket across these horses. Maybe Mabel back to 1,000 to Ramwick, well suited, ready to win. Rainbeal might be able to go up in distance a little bit. Omni Man and the winner, they're just horses. Put Timmy right, Omni Man.
Going back down to the running rail and from Omni
He's a funny horse, Omni Man. He certainly had his chance here, that's for sure. Bit of a nothing race. I agree, poxy sort of race.
Winner, and we're ready to go for the Cura Stud Handicap.
Last race, yeah, another pretty average race. They go out softish tempo, slow down even further, and then don't come home quick. Overall, pretty weak race, and that's what it looked like, to be fair. Dakota Vroom slow out. I think they tried to go a little bit too slow on most of these horses. The two stablemates settle up front. You can see there that, what's it called?
So at the 800 metres, and French Bonnet holds the lead today. French Bonnet out by 3/4 to True Crime.
True Crime up outside the leader is quite keen in the run. Yeah, the flying, all the Derby horses. High Blue Sea pulled up, not at its best. Starman gets in the finish here, so the winners are just off speed with cover. Kintyre's not a bad effort after it was sort of dragged back at the start. Here's Kintyre to be ridden cold. Dragged back at the start. I thought its effort was decent first up. It's probably a horse that's got a bit more upside than most of these horses. Acapella Sun needs to go back in distance. I think French Bonnet and True Crime are still dangerous here, even though they're a little bit plain. I think this horse has got a race in it. It needs to be ridden far more positively, probably a wide draw, let roll around somewhere like Warwick Farm. But, yeah, winners first and second pretty much had their chance. Very fit, well set up horses. Romeo's Choice the same. I'm not sure where it was in the run. And Kintyre's the one that made ground a little bit from against the pattern. So Romeo's Choice has had a bit of a wide run there. A very fit horse. I wouldn't be giving it too big a bonuses. I think it's a pretty poxy race overall. So I wouldn't be jumping out of trees to follow the form. The winner, okay, fair enough, but certainly every chance both runs back. He can improve again. It was off a really slowly run, messy race last time and again this time, so it can improve, but probably needs to continue to go up in grade with benchmark points and things like that and continue to be competitive. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a Wednesday race. It's a Wednesday race. So I didn't think there were too much like horses to follow. Sort of everything was pretty self-explanatory there. Sort of negative the first race, Dr. Evil. The second race would be a good feeder for Highways. I think Shadows of Love and Bandy's Boyle run okay out of 3. Straight Charge and Espionage out of 4 will be fine. The Parramatta Cup is more of a barrier trial for races like, Metrops and Sydney Cups. So, I'd be treating it that way, just going back and checking out how that race is as a platform to next time, but probably more important for races 2 and 3 runs down the track. Wellwall was pretty good with being first up. There were some okay resuming runs back in the pack there, sort of little mix. The Lassafire Faulkner Park and Palmetto even. The Millie Fox will be a feeder race for some high quality mares races and probably some Group 3, Group 2s as well. It looked okay off a slow tempo, so again, be wary of that form. Celestial Legend head and shoulders above everyone in the Hobartville without too many excuses in the last 2. Probably both of them, just borderline Saturday races. Not ignoring you, but I don't see much to talk to Anthony Road going up the ladder quite solidly. I talked about him. I thought he was just pretty fair. I think Starman probably, I think Brisbane's probably his go for sure. Super fit, no excuses. I haven't had a good look at these Caulfield races, so I'll talk about them, but second. Print that. Something to look at. No, I haven't had a chance to read Tessark. It's certainly been lost. All right. So I'll have a look at these races. Start with the Angus Armanasco. I'll just check the times of what I've got. So very even tempo here. Lead this first section out. So they come home. They come home a little bit slower than they go out. Overall, just below sort of average. There's a weird ride here. There was a very ordinary ride on. Is it called Autumn Angel?
They look to stand pretty well.
The Silver Slipper winner go as good as Lady of Camelot off the run. Very different horses, very different preparations. But I'll talk about her when I get there, I guess, because she didn't change leg again. She had to chase this ridiculous tempo. Her effort was huge. She's just a little bit quirky, whereas Straight Charge, Espionage, Storm Boy, much more professional horses. I'm not going to say she's far off them ability-wise. She just needs to sort of do the right things, whereas you're pretty much guaranteed they will do the right things. She's still got a bit quirky, and she's like probably should have won a Blue Diamond and not even changing leg and chasing a fast tempo. So, yeah, I'd have to agree with that. So, yeah, a few things here. At the start, Autumn Angel back to the inside. Very strange run. What have I got here? Jump well dragged out. So Glamorous at the start's probably the horse you want to look at. So this is So Glamorous in the red. Arguably jumps, in front. Straight away grabbed hold of. Ends up back towards the rear. So this is the same horse. Hate that. Sometimes you have to do it, but I still hate it. And dragged like 2 lengths back even behind. So forgiving a bit. Winners outside the leader. 3 wide, no covers. Solid effort. It's called Sarasana. And yeah, and so Glamorous back here, keeping an eye on this ride on Autumn Angel. I'm assuming it's queried. I haven't looked at the steward's report, but I'm assuming there were questions asked of the ride on it in particular. So Glamorous outside it, Autumn Angel on the fence. Winner's a good effort, sits outside leader, boots away, holds on well. Sarasana sits 3 wide outside it, boxes on well. So Glamorous after being dragged out of the race. Tries to sustain a run. Not great, the old laying in, but good effort for sure. And this is so you can see where they are in the run together. For whatever reason, like where's he going to go? Maybe it's just a complete misjudgment going back to that inside section, but you can see like full momentum and 3 to 4 lengths it's given up by making that decision to go back to the inside. And when she pulls off the heels here, Autumn Angel, yeah, absolute shocker, Autumn Angel. Someone sort of said to me on Saturday, Moody's not going great, and I looked up his form, and it's horrendous, especially with favourites. I think he was like 4 from 17 on favourites or something like that in the last 60 days. Obviously, a great trainer who can turn it around, but you've got to be wary of his horses at the moment. And negative are 2 different things. That wasn't great. Sedative Stakes. So they go out above average, come home just below. Another pretty even tempo, pretty even solid tempo. Overall time again, pretty even. So another race you're going in pretty neutral about. Brave Meat misses the start out here after leading and controlling in a great ride first up. That was sort of the first dagger in the heart for it. Yeah, but you can't really do what they did. I know what you're saying, but you can't. Really do that.
Speed as well. Lakota Fire got to third with Hello World Legacies, Don Corleone, and they were followed by Pivot City in the back half. Well back is Scully as well with She Light just ahead of it. Brave Mead second last, and at the end is Wolfie. So it's Raikoki the leader. 800 metres to go.
So Wolfie was the other horse that missed the start with Brave Mead.
Mead, who Koki stacked them up. 450 metres to go from Lakota Fire. Then came Mahaba 3 wide. Hello World behind them. There's almost a run for it. Then She Light Legacies deeper. Brave Mead down the centre of the...
Poor old Brave Mead's had to take off before the early settlers and Circle and peaked. His effort's pretty good.
Outside, followed by Legacies. Raikoki, 100 metres to go. Still had a buffer from Brave Mead, trying hard, but it's all Raikoki. Raikoki won it. Brave Mead second. Scully and I catch a third. Outside, followed by Legacy. 150 metres to
Scully's run really well from back in the pack there, but sort of had that run I don't mind at Caulfield where they cut through, just didn't get through in time and hit the line quite well. His effort's really good, sort of gets held up for momentum there and has to stop start, so certainly didn't get its chance. Very unlucky Scully. The winner certainly had a lot go its way there, I would say.
Brave Mead down the centre of the track is starting to launch. It's Raikoki, 200 metres, led by over Mead on Raikoki.
Forgiving Run the second, very much so. Forgiving Run third. I don't know what's happened with Don Corleone in here. It just sort of never got tested at any stage and whether it wasn't going any good or not. Hard to tell. Doesn't look like it was going that well anyway, but a bit of a forgive. It's a bit of a poxy race. I'll be wary of that form. Probably the one horse that looked very interesting was Scully. It certainly was the one attacking the line. What's this race? Autumn Classic. So this is Derby sort of horses. Fast run race, fast run overall time. Yeah, concur. Fast run to the 8, fast run to the 6. So they've really gone quick to the 8, slowed down a bit to the 6, but still fast, and then home, below par, but not too bad and fast overall time. So this race looks solid. So heading into this, trying to be fairly positive.
Ready to run. Sets and away they go. Dunbelievin, who was moving in the barrier stalls, with also Sox Nation Just a Boom and Time to Chat, followed by Dunbelievin. Next in the field, Just a Well, with also Sox Nation Just by Wilmot, 2 lengths Caracas. Well, the race from Time.
The winner had blinkers on here. I had a look at his replays, I think on stream actually, because I didn't know these horses too well. And he was a bit wayward, flat spots. It took a while to sort of wind up. Wasn't sure, looking at him what he was. And you can see he kind of gets keen here in the blinkers, if anything. And he looks a different horse once he gets some clean air and levels out. Certainly looks a dangerous horse going forward. Yeah, I didn't even see that. Scully was 200 to 1 there. That's interesting.
So it's Sox Nation, cluttered them up, comes up towards the corner at the 450 from Time to Chatter's full.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Needs a run behind them. Immediacy got out, then came Just a Boom, and to the outside, United Kingdom with a lot to do. Sox Nation called upon from our...
Just love the way he builds. He doesn't do anything too quickly. He certainly does it quicker than when he didn't have the blinkers, but saw he raced ungenerously a little bit in the run, and to be able to produce this sort of finish off that dominant late, I'm assuming it's Derby favourite now or close enough to it. Australian Derby, $11. Tom Kitten $5.50. Riff Rock at $6. Yeah, Orchestral $8. So it's not as if it's a $11 militarised. It's the same price as the militarised. It's hard to argue with that off what you've seen there, but it is probably... Is it first prep or has it had another prep? First prep, so getting through to win a Derby first prep's nearly impossible. Sister is his mother, his father is his brother. We all are the one, the Curry family. Gary can only improve. Yeah. It's just a matter of all doing it all in a first preparation is nearly impossible trying to get to a Derby. So, what's it gone? 19 days, 38 between runs. Quite a difficult task. It looks like, yeah, he's improving. Blink has certainly improved him again. No signs there. He's not continuing to improve and go forward. So until they do, it's very hard to be too negative. So here's the slowly run race. What was it? The Futurity Stakes. Oh, no, it's not. It's the Peter Young Stakes. Very slow to the 800. Slow down even more to the 600 and then come home. In a day, again, where they didn't run too many super fast sections coming home, they've run home pretty quick. So, slow tempo here.
Set to run. They go 1800. Ready, signal, racing. Campionessa from barrier number 1 broke away fast.
And Gold Trip, certainly set a task, but a bit like that horse you were talking about earlier, Autumn Angel, completely expected. Campionessa, perfect run in transit. No excuses for any of the horses. Vow and Declare, absolutely perfect run in transit. I don't think that's too much of a disadvantage for Campionessa to not have had room to move and sprint, you know, like Vow and Declare and these horses. They take a bit of time to wind up. She looks like just that absolutely perfect run. Gold Trip nearly looks the winner, and it's just that sustained run against that tempo that really tells on him late. Yeah, he's certainly returned in good order. Yeah, hard to knock the form, but it's a bit of a joke race. 1, 2, 3 have all run well. 4's run well. Don't think it's really worth talking about too much more. Treat it as a barrier trial again to sort of whatever they step into next. Is there anything that ran poorly? Not really. Foxy Cleopatra, every possible. Those on speed, every possible. Just a nothing race. Which one was Loft? Ran second last. This is Loft here. So it's the one that comes wide, or is it sit on speed? Yeah, so this is Loft out here, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think Campionessa's that's as good as it can go. And that's as good a conditions as it could have to go as well as it can go. The mighty Mr. Brightside looked in trouble to me visually. They went 100 miles an hour here. They come home below standard, but still run decent time overall. Into the 800, they go pretty quick. They step it right up from the 800 home. So the last 800, the hammer's down, and the time overall is quick. Once again, he just sort of does what he needs to do. Super professional. I thought Pericles was going to gap him at one point there. But yeah, they certainly went too fast here. So it's no surprise that the on pace has got bashed up. Didn't see any jockey footage, no.
Led early from Mr. Brightside, Dom to shoot, and out deeper on the track, attrition. Buffalo River's getting into its work, still 2 off the lead in the first 300. 2.5 lengths, Nugget, followed by Hey Fat Cat and Murameka's last.
He's not the best horse I've ever seen, Mr. Brightside, but there's not many that have developed into a more honest, bulletproof sort of type than him for a long time, that's for sure. He's got no weaknesses. He can be ridden forward, back. He can sit wide on fast speeds and maintain sprints. He can sustain long sprints. He can lead quick, and he can do anything pretty much. Maybe a little bit more one pace this time. Not one pace. It takes time to wind up. He's sort of dropping the bit a bit early, but he's still finding under pressure, and he's still got gears, and he's not been weak late. So he's at his peak, I'd say. But you can see, like, Pericles here, to me, looked like he was absolutely bolting and was going to come off his back and really do something. And yeah, he's just got an overdrive that these other horses don't have. Much better run from Pericles. Regardless, good effort, Buffalo River. Just a really tough horse to get a handle on. Is that Munamek coming from the back? Not really a weight for age horse, is he, Munamek? But pace assisted, dragged out, not really. Looks like they've treated it as a little bit of a barrier trial, really, and it's sort of poked through late. These horses out the back are just sort of closing in margins on the horses that certainly had a little bit more merit to their runs, I would have thought personally, sort of chasing that fast speed especially, and the one out in front who can break horses' hearts, so that these guys back here are certainly a little bit flattered in comparison to the ones on speed. Pericles probably had the best run in the race, and Mr. Brightside certainly had the right run, but he's clearly superior late. Not much learnt there, I don't think. Blue Diamond. Another run where you can't. What do you do? You question the ride on Spywire, or you just say it was a misjudged ride, or was there a reason for it? Why did they, he came back and said, I probably went a bit hard, but, it's not as if Mar's putting the speed on for other Mar horses or whatever. Maybe it was just a misjudged ride. Maybe it just jumped too well and he carved himself up, but where have they gone? About 7 lengths above to the 8, 7 lengths to the 6th, come home about 6 below for 1 above. So they've run solid time. I thought the winner did a great job, to be fair. It's the only horse that kind of made a run and had to get off the heels of Coleman and go early and sustain its run to the line. So it's hard to make a case that it wasn't a deserving winner. The second horse, obviously, a monster run. And if they run the race 10 times, probably wins at 8.
They are ready. Set to go. Racing. Coleman away fairly. Stay focused out quite well with Hayasugi and Spywire towards the outside, and Lady of Camelot fairly. Racing. Coleman away fairly. Stay focused out quite well with Hayasugi. Racing.
She's like a quarter length slow, if anything. Lady of Camelot, and that sort of probably was enough for Johnny Allen to get excited about. Poor old Hippo's probably pushed her a bit harder than he would have if he expected Spywire to come out as quick as it did. But it's not as if he's not cleared those horses. The thing that's the worst part about these on-speed horses for Lady of Camelot is it didn't have anyone to take it further. He probably wanted Spywire to control the tempo a little bit more from the time it got there and then sort of take her a little bit further into the race, whereas sort of Hippo's already nearly taken the front here, and he's dropped the hammer very early. Sort of see she crabs around the bend and never, ever, ever gets off that lead leg and onto the other leg to quicken. So her effort to finish as close as she did, you can see she's paddling a little bit like last time, and then when she got onto her right leg, she found another gear and sort of, I think if she did that here, she would have won. I think she would have won for sure if she changed legs. So that was a bad sign. I've heard him talk about this horse a few times, that in track work trials, it's very hard to get it to swap legs and let down. It finally did it under race conditions when Tim rode it their last start, but back this Melbourne way, it didn't do it. So, yeah, that's sort of probably covering Lady Camelot in isolation. This is the winner, sort of Hayasugi. It's had to come 4, 5, 6 wide. Obviously had that pace advantage, but that is Coleman that it's on the back of in the run. It's not going to take it anywhere, so flushed wider and had to come and make its own run. Yeah, the back markers certainly work home, but they were, as sort of mentioned a few times now, pace assisted. I didn't really see too many horses that were, unlucky in behind. I think Stay Focused was 3 wide, no cover the whole way, wasn't it? So its effort was huge. He's a bit of a punishing horse. I think these sort of horses that get their head up and and want to do things wrong. These real tests sort of bring out the best in them, but it's a nightmare because they need these hard run races and things to sort of settle down their bad habits. So they run to these huge peaks, and then you expect it when they go back to a sort of a slow run or softish race next time out, and they do a lot wrong and find a way to get beat. But he's a real trier. Stay focused. Thought it was a great ride, Anisa. Who else was in this race? Traffic Water, Matisse. They were all sort of pass marks. Fearless pass mark. Not really. Stay focused was good. Anisa was okay. Kuryanagi, every possible. We've already talked about Lady of Camelot, and I thought the winner's effort was really good. Hayasugi, you would expect it to potentially run into a race like the Slipper. It's had 2 preps, only had 3 runs this time in for 3 strong wins, so I'd expect it to line up in a Slipper. Yeah, I think Fearless is very green. Maybe next prep. Yeah, Hippo looked very light before the race. Poor bugger. I think that's the first time he's had to ride that weight for a while, and he didn't look great after it. But he certainly did nothing wrong. Probably everything that could go wrong did to a certain degree. Sort of that little bit slow out, taken on, nothing to take him into the race. He might have gone a touch early, and I think if she gets onto her right leg, it wins. So he only needed a little bit to go right at any stage, and he probably would have got the job done. But it wasn't his day. Oakley Plate, funnily the time's pretty good. It's okay. They set a fast tempo. Doesn't look like they do, but they set an even fast tempo and run a decent time overall. So, yeah, no huge knocks on the race on paper. When we watch it visually, I thought it was a bit of a weird one. I thought the old Squirrel Gripper Shripper was one of the better things I've seen for a while. I think the race overall is pretty poxed. This is Shripper here, sort of ends up, you're probably hoping it ends up in a position in the first 4, 5, 6, even if it's sort of 3 wide, no cover, or, preferably 3 wide with cover and somewhere near the speed, and ends up out the back. Kalos with it. Q-Man just drew that beautiful gate where it can just bounce and end up in a perfect stalking position. King's Gambit settled nice and close, well backed. Punishing creature. He'll continue to torture whoever loves following him in the run. Another horse that loves to get his head up and do crazy things. Certainly not stay focused. He's in the same category as this horse. It's got a lot of quirks. Shripper again. Well, I'll go back and follow. I honestly think it was one of the best things beaten I've seen in a long, long time, Shripper. But 1-2, do nothing wrong. Fast tempo up there, out of trouble, but setting a solid tempo and doing their thing, and nothing could run past them. So, was Benedetta a little bit unlucky in the middle here? Arguably. Chain of Lightning was okay. That Ray Magnerio, it's just a bit of a pox race. Like, look at the Flying V. What I'll say about Shripper is he, for whatever reason, he ends up sort of in under their heels. You can see he's keen, and he's not a sit sprinter. And even now he's sort of struggling to build momentum. He's ducking and diving. He's a horse that needs to be sort of up on speed, continuing to run even fast sections. I don't think he's a horse that needs to be or wants to be ridden this way. And look how good he goes down the outside where not too many horses came all day. Jeez, it was a big run. Yeah, Q-Man. I'll tip of the cap to Nico Noonan. He just about not declared it, but declared it on looks from the yard. Just, knew it was going to get the right run. Looked incredibly well. Run the race of his life. Something to that effect was what he said. And betting up each way. I think he backed a couple of runners in the race, but I think it was like 16, 17 to 1. So well done, Nico. He pivoted and put his balls on the line, and they got the result. So love to see it. Yeah, sort of Chain of Lightning, frustrating horse. What do you do with this form? Most of them have at least pass marks. There's not too many horses that have run poorly. They'll all go in different directions. I doubt they'll go on to sort of Sydney Weight for Age racing or anything like that. Yeah, it's a bit of a poxy looking race for mine. Even as Fura didn't do too bad from the back after missing the kick as well. This race was over pretty early on, I thought. Once Revolutionary Miss ended up outside this, the even sort of tempo looked the one to beat. It looked like it was coming out of the right form race. What's the horse in this race that just keeps getting given none? Is it Eternal Flame? Once again, sort of set a bit of an impossible task. And Shuffle Dancer, or sorry, Forbidden City was the other horse that came out of it. I thought it had settled closer to the speed. So once they were out the back, you're sort of left with not much danger. Running by, I didn't think it was suited back in distance. Very honest, but sort of one-paced-ish sort of horse that was always going to need favours, I thought, to be winning the race. Travels comfortably outside the leader, Revolutionary Miss, going extremely well, very well set up, fit. Everything went its way, and whilst you're always sort of complimentary of horses who can sit outside the leader and win, had its chance. Eternal Flame again ran okay down the outside, just needs a rider change or a barrier draw or something. The rest of them didn't look like there was much between them on paper, and they ran that way. Bit of a nothing race to finish, but time and everything okay. This race will feed into other races of similar fashion, and there weren't too many bad runs. Yeah, I think Road to Arataki needed that run. I think it'll be better set up next time, but it still was pretty plain. So they're the main meetings we've seen from the weekend. Have a quick look at the upcoming races from this week. The Derby's certainly not one of them, but I'll bring them up here. Off there we go. Yeah, so races coming up this week of note. Australian Guineas. Hard to argue that Riff Rocket's not going to be completely the horse to beat there. Glory, my Black Booker. Have a look at Asheron Race 1. Have a look at Asheron from Race 1. I was at that really slowly run race.
So a terrific day of racing about to get underway. Sportsbet Blue Diamond.
Like ridiculously slowly run first race.
It's feeling and John
Asheron out the back.
Steadily worked up a side.
4 lengths tailed off.
John next the Infa. Dunkel's only a head away. A length and a quarter. Mancayan stoked up from Gear Up. Mahamadeus, Glentanius, Will straighten to Gear. Beaters to Gear Up. Mancayan. Dunkel. 100 metres to go. Strides clear from Mancayan.
Yeah, huge.
And
like
won the first.
huge.
Second
huge. They've come home like ridiculously fast, and its run certainly probably one of the better 2,000 metre runs I've seen in a long time. All right. So what are we looking at here? Yeah, Riff Rocket. I can't see King Colorado turning the tables on here. I thought Militarize was pretty plain first up, but I'll just have another look at it. Oh, it's gone okay, Militarized. It's probably gone better than I thought it did, figures-wise. I'm not a huge figures person, but it did work to the line better than I thought it did. It did build through the line. Just have a quick look at him. I'll have a look at all of them.
So Attractable gallops to a length and a half lead with Thinkler's one off Lindemann in front.
Sort of get squeezed back a little bit.
3 lengths on the rise, but Fangirl, what a return to racing. Fangirl trounces them. Militarized second.
Yeah, it's hard to argue he didn't go okay there. So I'd have Militarized in front of King Colorado, that's for sure, if he goes that way. What I haven't times or anything for Riff Rocket's race. I did cover it. Riff Rocket might be short. And maybe Militarize. He's being undersold. I don't know especially if it gets a wet track. V8. Because I definitely wouldn't have King Colorado in front of Militarize, so that's one thing for sure. And then you've got to factor in this fella coming off again, weight for age form, which is militarised the same.
1400 racing, and Mr. Brightside dwelt was the Buffalo Rib Quarter in second. Buffalo slings to pick up, joined by it's Larry 8 and Mr. Brightside.
Question with this horse is will it run a mile, I guess. That's your problem. If you think it's going to run a mile, then the two horses coming out of weight for age might be value against the two horses that are coming out of the same race together. That's probably the question. Well, that's another question. I'm not sure. It doesn't make sense to be the militarised at $7, so then you're probably on the right track. But certainly Riff Rocket looks insanely short. Both of those horses coming out of weight for age would certainly interest me if they line up against it. Yeah, definitely not be chiming in unless you find out where it's going. Sort of, I've got the wrong screen up there. Sorry. Yeah, I think the sort of $7.50, $8.50 are much more appealing, especially sort of final field-ish. There's nothing there that you probably want to chime in. I think V8's important. He draws a gate, even though he's probably a little bit more adaptable than the others. Yeah, jeez. Wasn't sold on Verdad first up, but it's coming out of the Riff Rocket race, right?
Just encouraged forward. Opie Boston aboard, field set for the CS Hayes. Ready for King Colorado, well back with Edmund 50 with Ambassadorial. Harry for Dad's trying. It's very to Riff Rocket and King Colorado now over the top. Riff Rocket took the front at the 100 from King Colorado. Terrific return, Riff Rocket.
I'm a huge fan of this horse, but I can't understand how it's possibly second pick. Like Verdad's got more upside than it. The winner's got more upside than it is shorter in the market, and then you've got to factor in sort of weight for age racing. A V8 back to it. I think it's the one that looks the weak point in the Guineas market. Yeah, certainly not knocking $11 versus $2.50, 100%. Especially if it draws, gets clean air and room to wind up, which is what it didn't get there. Guy Walter. Yeah, I don't think there's anything too exciting to look at there. Valentia certainly short enough, a bit unlucky the other day. Jewis, like neither of those prices are prices worth looking at. Hinged has been a horse that's been racing weight for age form, fresh into a Guy Walter again, nothing worth getting too wound up about. More Secrets is a horse that's very dangerous, small field, got a sharp turn of foot, usually given 2 or 3 runs to get fit for a race like a Coolmore or something. If they've got it wound up a little bit more, it could be dangerous, but doesn't look too exciting. Well, is it nommed? Like that? You would assume they're all the horses in the noms, right? Going good. He's Fabergé, but I agree. It's a Wednesday horse. Guy Walter. Yeah, it's not nommed, but they're extended noms, so that's interesting. They might throw a late nom in. Like that. There's another reason not to worry about really this betting market. If there are late noms, anything could happen, so we'll just leave it alone. Liverpool City Cup. Another race that I doubt there'd be anything worth chiming into. This Wind Chat is absolutely airborne. A horse like Coal Crusher being in the race with Wind Chat is not ideal, though. Some interesting runners there. Another race I don't think, unless you like something at a price. Inver Park's an interesting horse. I wouldn't be getting too interested in this race early. Nothing interesting there. Skyline Stakes, I actually found a horse that's interesting here. Yeah, Cepheus, well, he had a long prep. I thought there's an interesting horse here that I'll bring up. And there is better around. It's probably my out wide early market horse for the week to a certain degree. This horse, President, I thought it trialled really well before its first up run. It gets dragged out here. Tommy rides it, and they run a pretty solid throughout tempo here. Track that's very difficult to run on from back and wide as a rule. This day especially, it wasn't great. I think the horse is up on speed, you know, got full control, and I think the winner's a pretty good horse. So President's back last. A little bit keen. But a horse that can certainly take up a more forward position if it draws a gate on the weekend. Makes quick ground here. Sort of loops him. Shows some good acceleration, and then late just sort of it just knocks up here. You see it just absolutely dies on its run and knocks up. So I think this horse can take good improvement. I think it can settle more forward in a race. Oops, that was horrible. Oh, horrible through the outside fence. Yeah, I think this horse, President, can improve significantly, and I'm not going to back, like I'm talking about running against Storm Boy. Certainly not a gimme race. Like horses like Juvana Parkour's got decent enough form. Anode's not a bad horse. Prost is an improving sort of 1,400 metre tough horse. It's going to be hard to get past. And we know Storm Boy's got good form, but I just think President, and there is better around, sort of $7, $8 the place. He's a very interesting runner. I could certainly see it starting, you know, $15 and sort of $2.60, $3 a place. So I think $7 plus is probably double what you'll get come Saturday. So it interested me in this skyline. Yeah, I agree. $7.50 a place looks a great play. Learning to Fly. Yeah, probably have a look at that race again. Mainly because I want to look at. I sent the boys in to find out who was going to be riding Learning to Fly. No knock on Chad. Certainly nearly pulled off a brilliant ride last start from what looked a horrible position early, but you know, I was hoping that James McDonald was going to take the ride. He's not. He's going to ride Tis Invincible. So, again, the acid test, both these horses jump well. Victim of their gates to a certain degree, choose to be negative. Tis Invincible ends up 3 wide. Chad ends up going up the fence. And then Tis Invincible has to go further back and then comes wide. And Chad saves all the ground. So, interesting that James is riding Tis Invincible. I don't know whether he had the choice or not. Not really concerned. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of this Learning to Fly. Apparently she paraded really forward. But it's always hard to tell, like off such long breaks, how much, you know, until you can be physically fit on the outside, you still need to trim that fat on the inside. You still need to blow the cobwebs out. So I think she'll improve off that. And I think she's clearly the horse to beat. Yeah, he's definitely not. He's definitely booked for Tis Invincible as far as I'm aware. Who's Roll on High? It doesn't... is it a Kiwi horse or something? Flemington horse. Oh, I know the horse.
Wide. Assistant starter and attendants just checking there. They're happy though. Gates are back and racing. Bezo a touch slow. And Lady in Pink going back towards the end of the field. Azula began quickly with Facile and also out wide, forcing its way forward very, very quickly indeed is Aprilia. They were followed by runner back within the design field is out deeper on the track. Elphingston, so Pacific and Aprilia deeper. Apache Song Pacific Cross. Star at the 200 metres. It's Roll on High and Jolly Star together from Kamachi. It's Roll on High.
Yeah, so this form's good. I don't know if the horse is running or not, but for it to beat these horses first up, it's going to want to be pretty good. And we've already talked about Pete Moody, that he's probably not going as good as he can. So Yeah, I think gate draws are very important to say a horse like His Invincible. If Learning to Fly draws a gate, I think it'll go very, very close. And I can't see much excitement in any of the prices, to be fair. So it's probably a race that's a bit of a wash at this point. I think Estrella's going to Melbourne, isn't it? So trying to find anything to the left field there. Sweet Embrace, I couldn't find anything. I'm a big fan of this horse, Fly. I think it can improve significantly. I'd rather wait and see what the barrier draws do here. Manal was really good first up, I thought. Deserving favourite, Castagna's probably not one of mine. Tudan, Lizzie and Shadow Miraval, I didn't think there was much between them. I'm not sure if they're both going there. They might split them. Which horse is Wavebreaker?
To tomorrow's newspaper.
Hot ran third in the Lady of Camelot race. Yeah, okay. So Manal only just got over the top of it late. Extreme Diva had its chance in that race. So, yeah, I think Fly is the one that can potentially improve out of it. It might be like a mini touch of overs. I don't think Castagna's got the upside, and I don't think it's coming out of the right races. I thought that Switzerland race was just okay. Obviously, that Embassy forms around the horses that ran the other day. It did beat the tempo the other day. Castagna.
They're ready to go in the Darley Lonro plate over 1,000. Favorite up, staying well off the fence. Embassy now for cover, then Kingdom Under Siege, Capital Dancer.
To be honest, I struggle to find Annabelle's horses for the most part. Obviously, every horse you look at on its merit. I just didn't. I thought Embassy sort of got left in front a long way out, having its first start in a race. I thought a node was a bit flat, got sort of stuck in the wrong part. Even though they didn't go quick and this horse is sort of beating the tempo, it was just a smelly race for mine. I think it might have got to the right part and got over the top of them. I'm not a big knock on the horse, that's for sure, but it's just not a horse that I've got a huge opinion of. Zach will probably ride it, which again is pretty smelly. It's not someone I want to go looking for. 2,000 metre wins. Now it's got to go to 1,200, whether that's a positive or a negative. Maybe it's just a horse that runs out a strong 1,000, but it has been sort of building through the line, both starts. Yeah, I'll wait and see. Yeah, it was a good win. There's no knock on it. I can't knock it, but I think it's a bit of a smelly race, to be fair. I think you're going to have to wait for barrier draws and things there. I don't think there's anything too exciting in the Sweet Embrace at this stage. I think I can find the feature races. Where are they? That's not what we want. Feature races. Is that it? That's it. Yeah, so definitely the horse for me, betting early. President of the place. I think you can get $7.50 at least around the grounds. So it's the one that interests me. I haven't looked at Rosehill Wednesday at all. To be fair, Monday afternoons, the one day I get to escape and go bloody 10-pin bowling, very exciting. So I haven't had a chance to have a look at Rosehill yet. Any other questions? Horse to look at? Anything that sort of happened this week you want to have me to look at before I run away? Scoot and those fellas are doing a Wednesday live stream or whatever it is. So I didn't plan on doing anything Wednesday anyway, but I won't be back until I'll probably do Friday night as well. Got away from the missus while Mouse was on Too Good. Yeah, I thought it's a bit of a funny time to do it, whether it's a time where people are watching maps or they aren't. But this will be on YouTube and stuff anyway. It's just something I'm going to do it anyway, so may as well do it live, ask some questions and do some stuff. Cheers, guys. Thanks for your time. I'll see you soon. What are you prepared to lose today? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.